Hey, Katie. Oh my God. Are we really doing this?
We are. Welcome to Higher Downloads, where two moms, entrepreneurs, and spiritual seekers are getting real about doing our best to live life in alignment.
Yeah, and by getting real, we mean the raw, unfiltered voice memo version of ourselves.
And you know what we're really obsessed with lately: higher
hmm
downloads.
You know that moment when clarity arrives seemingly from nowhere? That's it. That's the higher download from your highest self.
Exactly, because we know everyone has the ability to access their own higher downloads. So nothing is off limits here. Everything in the wheel of life, from career, spirituality, motherhood, relationships.
Yep, everything. And really through the lens of higher consciousness and joy. And we have to share our higher downloads too, right? So grab your coffee
Or your crystals, or whatever you need to have fun with us.
and get ready to tune in to your own wisdom channel because receiving higher downloads means you can live your life in HD.
Higher Downloads starts now. Welcome back to Higher Downloads.
Welcome back.
If you are new here and you need a little refresher, a lot of what we anchor our discussion topics about, or all of them really, sometimes more or less, but is the wheel of life.
And so if you need a refresher or are like, wait, what does that mean again? The wheel of life is basically a circle and it's divided into several slices. So think about like each spoke of the wheel represents key areas of life. So we have a couple episodes, one where we really focused on like joy and fun and pleasure. But Katie, what are we going to focus on? Which spoke are we going to focus on for this episode?
We're going deep on relationships. We really haven't gone deep on relationships yet. We've talked here and there about things, but in terms of really getting into all the different types of relationships, we haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, so sometimes it's like just inherent and then other times it's more explicit. So today it's about hot relationships. I was thinking of a rap song. It didn't come to me in time.
I
We'll just
love
leave
it.
that in. We'll just leave that.
Romantic, friendships, family. I mean, relationships, like, I wonder for anyone listening, what is the first type of relationship that comes to your mind whenever people say, we're going to talk
Oh,
about relationships? I bet it's different for different people.
I bet it is. I bet it is. Like if you're thinking of romantic or if you're coupled up or if you're thinking about a parent-child relationship or with your neighbors.
Oh, yeah, totally. Okay. So we're going to talk through that. And just for context, we're both in long-term cis monogamous relationships, partnerships, marriages, all the different
Cisgender.
ways to
Yeah.
define it. So we're not, we're talking from our personal relationships from that lens. I think it's fair to acknowledge.
Yeah, and I will say this. So we will talk about our marriages, our relationship, but one thing that I read or saw somewhere was how you do relationships reveals how you do life. Dun dun dun. And it's
Hmm.
true. Like, I think what did we say? Like we've heard this, right? Like don't marry someone that you love, like marry the person you want to like fight and evolve with or whatever. It's like we work out a lot of stuff in our loving romantic long-term relationships, but also friendships, work, business and professional relationships. It's
Absolutely.
mhm. Okay.
Yeah, and there I think at different times of my life too, different types of relationships have been different priorities. And it's so interesting being in a really like what I'd call a real long-term relationship. Feels long. It's not as long as I guess like 50-year marriages, but still it feels like long. And just to see how that has evolved, I always say that that is something I wish everyone could experience is like, what is it like to really be truly intimate with someone for over a decade, over 2 decades? Like, so much happens in your life whenever you have that. And it's such a beautiful experience. Even if it's a really close friendship, right? Intimate can be different. I don't mean sexually intimate, I mean truly intimate over a long period of time. Wow. That's like, that to me is the coolest thing that I've experienced. And I want more of that with my friendships too.
Yep. Yep. Same. And I thought about that, like, this is just a tangent, but it's still, as I was hearing you speak, I didn't expect to say this, but we lost a family pet earlier this year and we had him for 18 years. And it was like, Oh God, like when he was, dying, it was one of those things like he's seen us in so many eras and iterations of our lives, and that's so sad that we can't continue that. But it's the evolution of any kind of relationship. And I think one of the other reasons why you and I were voice memoing about why this topic would be so critical for an episode is that we're noticing massive shifts in how people relate to each other all over the world.
Oh, so true. Yes. I mean, I'm seeing such a different dynamic between male and female genders, relationships, and culture, and trends. I mean, even like people are talking about marriage and baby crisis and households not, women aren't people aren't getting married the same way they used to. And I'm not saying any of that's a problem or a crisis. I'm
Right.
just saying that's the headlines that exist, not that I
Hmm.
agree with them as a crisis, but that it is a trend, like a statistical shift has been happening and is always changing, right? To be fair, but for it to be moving towards a different type of partnering in life is natural, but also fascinating to me.
Yep. Yep. Or how people relate to their businesses, their bosses, their workplaces, their friends, their parents, different generations. There's a lot happening around just relationships. So we wanted to talk about it. And should we dive in? You already started to set it up about with our marriages. Should we dive in on the real, real?
Yes. I mean, where do we want to begin? You have been longer relationship than me, so why don't you
It's just because I'm
start?
older. Yes, community, if you were wondering, I will shall finally reveal that KDP is the older.
By a little bit. Come on.
Yes. Okay. So, but what we do have in common is we're both the college. You married your college sweetheart. I married my college sweetheart. Um, it's so funny because what when I think of us, and actually, oh, he asked me to be his girlfriend in early December, which is when we're recording this podcast, and so it's always like this time of year where I'm like, oh, and that nostalgia comes in, and those things. And so we've already crossed the threshold where we've been together more than half of our lives now. It's
And like,
wild.
let's be real, more than half of your life since you were born, but like your whole adult life, pretty much.
Yes,
It's so
correct.
weird, but awesome.
Before we were legal to drink in this country, we were in a monogamous relationship. And we are absolutely neither of us the same person who started to date the other one, which is so wild and so beautiful. Thank God. Thank God.
Literally, Andrew reminded me like last week that they say, your cells in your body turn over every 7 years. So that means
Correct.
you're physically not the same person.
Physically, yep, much less all the other things, right? And um, no relationship can be together that long without there being hardship or things. And we've definitely had our share. We've done long distance. Early in we had to make a very purposeful decision to be together because it would have been the easier decision would have been to not. And then he moved across the country to be with me, and that was hard. Like hard to be in a new place, not surrounded by as many close family and friends. And what did it feel like to grow up in we were in a Washington D.C., so big urban area, and just I don't, all those things. But it was really fun, really exciting. We got married, and then 2 months after getting home from our honeymoon, I said he came home from work, and I said, "Hey, remember like I just mentioned one time that I wanted to get my PhD?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, I'm gonna apply." And we might be leaving DC soon.
Nice.
So a lot has happened. I've already shared a few things on this podcast in different episodes, but we battled infertility for 4 years. Like, there's a lot that can really, you get refined and shaped through things. And I know you're the same. You've been through some tough things, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I met Andrew when I was in college. He was 3 years older than me, so I was 19 at the time and met on 6th Street, at bar scene. Love at first sight, I guess. Got numbers, started it was February, so our first date was literally the day before Valentine's Day. Or yeah, we met that day and then went to the movies. And anyway, been together ever since. And yeah, it's wild because we joke all the time of he jokes, I made the best investment ever by latching onto you. Like it's like a joke, right? It's like, but I was a drunk, messy, like had no idea what I was doing. Like priorities were way off. I'm like, I am no one who I was then, who I am now. I mean, yes, I was
Right,
deep
right.
down
But I
inside,
know.
but like it doesn't track with who I am. He's like, I'm so glad you're such a great mom. And I'm like, you had no idea.
You could tell that
So
how by how I took the shots, right?
yeah, yeah, I was very responsible by leaving my purse everywhere, so that's obviously a good sign. So, yeah, funny, but it is funny how you do because what I do say is that like he is inside who I've always felt from him, which is loving, which is kind, which is nurturing and supportive, right? Like even as a messy, 21-year-old or whatever, 22-year-old, it's like his essence of him was always still there, and I know it's the same. It's just like hard to articulate when on paper it's like you really don't know what you're getting yourself into, but at the same time you can feel it. So anyway, um
And
yeah,
how
it's
wild. Like you were 19. I think Paul and I were 20. But fun fact, Paul and I also went to high school together.
so fun. Love
We just
that.
we just didn't start dating until junior year of college. And I did fall in love with him when we were actually 17. He went on senior trip after high school graduation, and I went on senior trip with my girlfriends, and he went with his guy friends, and we were the only two who weren't legal 18 to go out, and so we stayed back and had this super fun time. I'm very serious. Like I fell in love with him that night. We it wasn't, nothing happened, but I just did. I fell in love with his soul, and fast forward 4 years and we started dating in college. But I was just thinking how young you just said for you and Andrew and how young Paul and I were. And I teach a lot of neuroscience stuff in leadership, and I always say that the brain is not fully formed until about 25 years old. And it
Mm-mm,
just occurred to
absolutely
me
not. Yeah.
how our brains literally were not fully formed when we entered into these monogamous long-term relationships.
I know, and it's amazing. And guess what? They've worked out, and I would say we've done the work, committed, and have evolved them. And yeah, it's like, yes, I mean, everyone goes through like, was that the right decision, right? Like you would be delusional to think you're never ever thinking that. And it's like, but time and time again, it's like keep choosing each other and keep evolving. And it's really cool now because I mean, I'm at the point now where I just it's like second nature. It's like we're partners.
Yeah.
We're best friends. It's not that question doesn't come up anymore, but it certainly did for a long time, especially when hard things come up in life. Like just finding who you are and going through different things with family, or COVID was so hard for us, and
Oh, we
physical
had
injuries
young
that created
children and
depression and just like wild stuff, right? But over and over again, those experiences build, and it creates this real sense of knowing each other, which is like
mm,
you can't cultivate that overnight. That is the one thing that is hard about not having a longer term relationship is it just takes time and experiences and to build that trust and that connection and really understanding how somebody works inside.
yeah, it reminds me of the Brene Brown's marble jar theory about like how each little small thing where you show up for the other person is like putting a marble in the jar, and but just it's a glass jar, and so it's a very sensitive, fragile thing. But I was when you were saying that about the hard parts and COVID and things, that's such a reminder that we can't control. There's so many external factors that are going to come at you at any relationship, but it's such a reminder that in every single one, like you said, keep choosing each other. Every single external factor can either you can bring you together or pull you apart. And it's one of the things we've talked about was how we're grateful in each of our respective marriages that even if in the short run it felt like it was pulling us apart, the way we worked through it, it brought us together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny. I mean, I have lots of friends that aren't married. I really came from a smaller town culture as well as just smaller towns, and I never questioned if I was going to get married. It was always who I was going to get married to. And so I just came with that frame, that lens. And then it felt like for me, the culture shifted while I was in the middle of it. Like as soon as, like right after Andrew and I met is when dating apps started. And right after that, we got married on the younger side in our early 20s. And then I thought like, oh, everyone else is going to get married. And that's just not what happened.
Not everyone does or did. Yeah.
Oh, it's so wild. So it's been really interesting for me to see how many people just don't, I don't want to say don't choose it, don't prioritize it, or I don't know, just have a totally different frame of reference for it. So I do want to go into this conversation, or we're in it, but I want to be in this conversation recognizing like how limited my perspective is on this
Correct. We
from a
are,
personal marriage partnership perspective.
yeah. And I mean, I would never look a Gen Z or Gen Alpha in the eyes and say, it's a great idea to get married by 25. Like, and yet, like, we did that, you know? And so it's just such an okay. So we did that. Okay, but do you remember when our mutual friend asked us, like, you both have such strong marriages. What are all the keys to success? Do you remember that?
I
Or,
do. And that's what I'm like, I don't know what I would tell a young person right now because I feel like it's got to be so much harder to partner with somebody when you're older and more mature and more evolved because your expectations are so much higher. And yeah, like my brain was not fully developed. My priorities were way off. I was in college. I was not in a time where I was like, who's going to make enough money to pay our bills and who's going to save for our retirement and who's going to be able to pay for my kids' private school. Like, not my kids don't go to private school. I'm just saying, like, I'm like,
yeah.
I didn't have that mindset at all. I was like, who's fun and who likes to go to concerts? And that is probably not what I would suggest that you use as your filter. But I'm like, but it worked for me. So I don't know.
And I was like, who's kind and makes me laugh? I wanted the exact opposite of an abusive father. Which, but people say that statistically you marry that, and I was so determined I would marry the exact opposite of how I was raised. And so uh he is. And in fact, on our first date, I got asked to go to ice cream. I mean, does
Oh,
it get
so
more
sweet.
adorable than that?
Precious.
Uh,
Well,
okay, but
so
yeah, so our
what,
answer, I was gonna say
yeah.
our answer back to our mutual friend was like, girl, if you only knew how many red flags, like if we knew then what we know now,
Yeah.
like the flags were flying.
I didn't have TikTok to tell me about red flags. We just had the red flags and we just didn't talk about them.
Right. Well, also, the truth is Paul probably should have had way more red flags about me. I was like, I was like, well, are you Catholic? He's like, no. And I'm like, oh, well, do you believe this? Like, are you?
Okay, I love that. I actually on Andrew and I's first formal date. So we went to the movies, but then we went to our first like dinner. It was like a few days later.
Uh-huh.
And at that dinner, I pegged him and was like, "Do you believe in God? What is your political opinions?" Like I was like, do you want kids? Like let's get down to business." And I
Dang.
feel like so many people that I talk to now act like they don't like that's not cool to do that. And I don't know. So it
Oh.
sounds like is that something y'all had early conversations about?
Oh yeah, we even had like names picked out for our kids. We knew exactly how old they were gonna be. He was like, sure, sure, we'll get married in the Catholic Church if that's what you need, but like, I know your real heart. Like, you're not really gonna like fall this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? And god damn, if he wasn't right. Like, there's just no doubt that our souls had a contract to meet in
Hmm.
this lifetime. And yeah, he he should have probably more red flags.
Okay, let's talk about that. Soul contracts. Soul contracts. Because I do agree that every relationship is here to teach us something, right?
I prescribe to that as well. Ascribe?
Okay.
Prescribe. I sign
And
up for that.
subscribe, prescribe, what?
Subscribe.
Crap. What? And then what's the other thing is like some people are here for a something in a lifetime. What is it?
Oh
A
gosh, why do
moment.
we always do this to each other? A
I know.
moment, a season,
A
or a
season.
lifetime.
There you go.
Nailed
It's
it.
probably different words, but yes, that's the gist of it. And I do agree, and I think that's why it's so fun to think about relationships because they are all so different, and like certain people's agreements with each other, right, are for different reasons. But the fun thing is with free will, it really is like And I like what you mentioned earlier about evolving together, because that's not a linear path. You're still two individuals, right? And for us, it is very much look like changing, resisting, changing, resisting, changing, resisting. Like it's like this slow dance of like people changing at different times for different reasons, and it's kind of like a little pressure cooker. But like the cool thing is, I feel like we've steadily kind of gone up together, and not like left somebody behind. And I've seen in relationships
Yep.
where it's almost like somebody refuses to keep moving forward, and then they end up
Mm.
getting left behind, and then that's why there's separation, right?
I so appreciate that. And I don't know if people are, just listening or watching, but when did your hand movements about some kind of like a two steps forward, one step back sometimes or things. Yeah. And I will, like, if I have to boil it down, if someone asks me that, I'm like, I guess our secret is that it's not a secret, but is that we've evolved together, but never at the same time or never but we've held the space for evolution. We also, I love when you said, like, you and Andrew are like, we're partners. Paul and I call ourselves a team. And even our son knows he's joined the team. Like, we are teammates. And, but the interesting thing about the not evolving at the same time is there is resistance. I'm so glad you said that. Like, there are moments when I had to go through my the when the butterfly, but when the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, she doesn't just sprout wings. She literally dissolves. Her body and her cells literally dissolve in the chrysalis, and then it forms new. And so in that dissolution, when that's happening, when people are evolving and changing, that is uncomfortable. Ooh.
It is. And especially if you're not going through it, the patience involved in that, can be hard.
Yeah.
Or like lack of understanding, especially if it's like you've never experienced that before. I think once you've experienced it, and then when somebody else is going through it, it's way easier to relate and understand. Like, I just have to be patient. They're in the middle of this, but it's beautiful nonetheless if you can get through it and get to the other side to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and that type of healthy relationship evolution was never modeled for either of us. Um, and so one of the things that I'm hoping we'll take in the direction of our relationship conversation is, I think you too, well, based on some of our conversations, is like we've had to challenge the norms we grew up with, and and then holding the space for the other person to either catch up and decide how they feel or evolve. And that is a dance that is can feel awkward and painful and frustrating in the interim. We're just very fortunate to have enough time and space to look back and be like, damn, isn't that beautiful? Wow, look
Hmm.
how beautiful. But when you're in it, it's hard. No wonder the divorce rates are so high. No wonder there's, right, like, I can
Yeah.
see it.
Well, I mean, especially because when you're in a partnership, there's the response, there's the like, yeah, can you have fun with somebody? But then there's the like, can you like cultivate a life together? And like, just the way our economy has been, right? There's like a lot of pressure. Like, I keep hearing more and more about affordability and being cost burdened, and incomes aren't rising, and inflation's high. So it's like, we're living in this like financial pressure cooker, economic pressure cooker, to where you really have to work together. And like what most cities, most people, you can't really afford to live in a like one income household. Then you got to really figure out how to partner, and like how do you balance your personal desires, your happiness with trying to live with trying to cultivate the fun in your relationship. Wow, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And like you and I were talking about being so young, but even if when you get older, you develop patterns. Some are really good and some are really hard, and or they're either born out of safety, or like the what your birth order was, or lots of different things. We did a whole episode on patterns. So when two people come together, if their patterns are pretty set, it's just this like constant, and then put them in the pressure cooker,
Hmm.
and having to work it out. Like, yeah, it's really tough. But I'm curious, you were the first person to ask me a question around divine feminine and divine masculine, or masculine and feminine. And I remember being like a little off put or confused because I had a societal frame to of reference when you said that, as in just like woman and man,
Oh
feminine,
yeah.
masculine. And so, anyway, that's been another, since then, I've learned a lot more about divine feminine, masculine, which has then led into matriarchal, patriarchal stuff. So, I've done a lot of learning about the systems that create the pressure cooker for relationships so that I can
Hmm.
see it for what it is and I can choose what serves me and my relationships or not. But that's
Yeah.
been a big one. Do you want to go there or did you have more to say about, sorry?
No, yeah, let's go there. But I also want to orient it with the like, there's the examples that were given, right, by our households or
Oh,
people in arm's length relationships that you witness, right? There's that example, but then there's also this, for me, a tidal wave of cultural expectations, right? Like cultural norms that get layered on top. And then there's what feels good to you, right? And like
right.
maybe those are all three different things. It is so wild to me how much variety there is. And really, there's not one way, but like when you're in a certain box, like white woman, right? Like that's our box that we're perceived. Like there's so many expectations in that box, and take any other box, and there's a lot of expectations on it. But my point is that you take all of those things and then you bring it home to your actual relationship with your partner, and it's almost like you have to sift through each of those layers. You
Ugh,
have to sift through what did you see growing up, and that's going to be different in your house than it was in my house. And then then there's what you saw at your house, and then what you took from that. Do you want the same thing, or do you want the opposite of it, or just something different? There's so many layers.
and then
Okay.
what feels good for you? Like
Yeah.
what do you actually believe? But yeah, it's this constant peeling of like, well, this is what we were taught and told and saw. This is what is in the movies and books.
Yes.
This is what we're seeing around us and what social, political, economic stuff is saying.
And
And then like
that changes every 5 years
every
anyway.
God, right? And then like, but what feels good to you? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I was at a kid's birthday party recently, and I was chatting with this lady, and she said something about we were just like kind of, just the chit chat and like, what do you do and whatever. And her family said they own a big, I don't want to, a big place in Austin that's well known. And I was like, what? Are really? And then I'm like, wait, because then she's married. And so I'm going through my own cultural questioning of like, did she marry into that family? Wait, no, she said it was in her line. Anyway, she could see on my face the calculations I was making, which is embarrassing because I believe that I have a wide variety of you can do anything, marry whatever you want. And she caught me, and it's like she already knew what to expect. And she was like, if you're wondering, my husband actually took my last name when we got married. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was trying to figure it out because the entity I'm talking about has the last name.
Got it.
And
Yeah. So you're like, how did that happen?
she was very clear that it was her lineage and her family, but then I was like, wait, and I know
Cool.
what her last name is, so I'm like, wait, oh, okay, I guess she didn't change her name or whatever, or whatever. Anyway, but
Yeah.
and then she went into this cool whole thing about like how important that was for them as a family of not families of origin, but their family they were creating, and they have
Hmm.
many children. That he took her family name, which is not something you see, but it's becoming more common. So back
Cool.
to cultural expectations and stuff. But I got trapped in one just in a conversation.
I know. And I think even too about people that don't even take the time to dissect this stuff, you're just stuck in the middle of it, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And
Yep.
if you're not talking about it, that means you're in the middle. And I promise you have a very different idea about this than the person you're going on the date with or the person you're married to, right? Or
Hmm.
dating or whatever. So, but yeah, so I really got to a point in my own personal work where I kept hitting a wall of like, I'm frustrated, I don't feel good, I'm not good. And then I kept coming back to like in therapy or in friends of like, and then I had someone else tell me like, have you heard of like masculinity? Like, I think you're in your masculine. And I remember being you saying I'm not pretty enough? Like you saying I'm not girly enough? And then they're like, well, what do you do for fun? I'm like, I don't do fun. I'm busy. Like
Hmm.
they're like, that's what I
Build
mean.
empires.
Yeah. So again, it took me several years of curiosity to really feel like I understood it. But long story short, I'm not going to go through that journey. But like now that I know the box, right? There's There's the man and the woman, and that's a linear box. Like I'm holding up a like just a one big circle, split it down the middle, woman, man. And the first time you hear it, because of all of our cultural programming, you think man, woman, masculine, feminine. But like turn it into one of those like boxes, like two grids crossing over, and now it's three-dimensional.
Like
And
a
there's just,
matrix, like a
yeah, like a matrix, but like a
yeah.
three-dimensional matrix.
Okay, yep.
And
Cube,
then
cube with four, yeah,
yes, grids. And then
grid.
take gender out of it completely. Like
Yeah.
it's just plotting like, okay, masculine's over here and it feels this certain way and it has these kind of qualities. Feminine's over here and it has these kind of qualities. And then you learn about wounded masculine and divine masculine and wounded feminine and divine feminine. And most often women are in
Wound.
one, more feminine than men, but it's not a rule. And so it just depends.
I was finishing your sentence. You're like, most women, and I'm like, are wounded. And you're like,
Yes. I mean, everybody's wounded. It's
we
the
all
human, it's the
are.
human experience. So there's nothing wrong with that. But yes, 1,000%. If you haven't healed it, you're wounded.
Okay, wait, but let's for people who this might be a newer construct. So masculine, please strip out any gender or sex, right? This
Any
is just
gender.
the characteristics, the attributes of masculine energy. Masculinity is structure, action, protection, doing. What else would you?
No, I think those are all like that represents, and yes, in our culture, men are programmed to be masculine. They think,
Yes.
right? Like that's the ideal in most,
Think, do, execute. I'm the breadwinner. I will
logical.
protect my family. I will direct my people on what to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And while many men are trained or ingrained in their culture that way, many women can do the same thing. I hold space and I'm strong and I take action and whatever, right? But that doesn't mean then if you go to the other side of the fence, the other extreme, the feminine, which they go together, they're
yep.
integrated, like
Like
they're
yin and yang.
connected, yin
Yep.
and yang, exactly. Feminine is receptive, flowing, knowing, being, right? Versus action. So like action
Creation,
versus being.
nurturing. Yes. Creation,
Nurturing,
nurturing. Yep.
exactly. Yeah, they go together, but they're kind of opposites that connect. And when I brought that into my relationships, I that was one of the biggest shifts. I realized how much here's the thing about relationships. Two masculine people will be trying to do the same thing. And in a partnership, you need a yin and yang, right? Not constantly in the same yin and yang all the time, but like you need that puzzle piece to fit together, not trying to fit into the same hole over and over again, right? It's like so anyway, when I came to that understanding, I just realized how much I was impacting the dynamic in the relationship with my partner from living too much in my masculine and not allowing me to be in my feminine and him to be in his masculine. And I know that's a big stretch. We just went a long way down the healing journey really fast, but it's hard. The whole point of why we're bringing this up is that I've experienced that. I won't speak for you. I'll let you talk to how it's impacted your relationship, but I've had a big impact on it. And what I'm seeing in the culture is a lot more acknowledgement or impact on people being in wounded feminine or masculine, but not knowing how to articulate it as that. And then you just get caught in this weird hate game.
Yeah. Yeah, I so see it. And I really appreciated you introducing that to me. And then I went down really looking into this and talked about it in therapy and just did a lot of more research on like, well, what does that mean? And I overcorrected for masculinity because of how I was raised. And I was like, I will never have a man like pull the rug out from under me or make me feel this way. So I overcorrected, which became a wounded masculine. So not only was I not in my feminine flow and creation and being, I was over indexing on masculinity, but from a wounded place, like from a no one will hurt me if I can over
Yeah.
control or over protect or do these things. And so yeah, and I actually, I saw it a lot in like friendships and family dynamics because I felt like I used to say there's the movie Encanto. don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's a character, Louisa, the cousin. She's got these shoulders that are really big and broad, and she literally like puts goats and houses and stuff on her
Very
shoulders. And
strong. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm Louisa, like, like to just throw me on your, I'll throw you on my back and I'll carry you, like I got you. And but that was from a wounded place because I didn't believe that I was worthy of being loved exactly how I was, or being nurtured exactly who I was, or that art and flow and intuition, trusting my intuition. Are you kidding me? Right? And
Yep.
so learning how to bring that back into my body, into my like clearing my chakras and into my being and heal my own understanding of what how I needed the masculine and feminine inside of me was the first step. And then it could start to like ripple out. But yeah, that's a really big one of realizing how to dance with that energy inside of me before I could bring it into a marriage or a friendship or anyway. So
Yeah, and you have to awareness first, right? You have to even know how to categorize an experience. And then how can you identify what you're doing in it? Are you doing this or that? Are you insecure? Are you secure? And I would say to replace, you could interchange wounded with insecure or secure,
good
right?
point. Good point. Yep.
Is like, or you could interchange divine. Like divine could be secure and wounded could be insecure. Like I've seen those used interchangeably. So if
Or
those
just like
resonate more
healthy,
with you.
unhealthy. Like
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
That's all we're saying is it's just there's a middle ground of like the secure piece, but then you can go off of that and
Mhm.
become insecure. But totally raise my hand for hyper independence, wounded feminine, can't be taken care of. Hello, can't ask for help. Been there. And I think that's interesting in our culture because you've got two streets, right? I feel like we've seen a lot of wounded feminine, of women who can't speak up, can't trust their intuition, are too dependent on men, right? Or too dependent for money. Like they're over indexing on being taken care of and thinking and then self-sacrificing, right? Like nurturing to an unhealthy degree. That's one example of an insecure or wounded feminine versus a strong, powerful, flowing, intuitive, nurturing woman, but who also is creating and has an opinion and feels safe in that relationship, right?
Yes, and that feminine energy that both men and women, or no matter what gender you identify as, that feminine energy, that flow and that creative, what's dependent on it, like that chicken and the egg, is to have a safe container.
Yes.
And the reason why women don't feel that is because our so many of our systems have been corrupted and women don't feel safe. You sent me, we've looked at social media has all these little trends. Please, Katie, tell us about the man versus the bear or that like
Yes.
there's a lot out there that is reflecting back to us in our society that the masculine and the feminine in mass, relationships in mass are in the unhealthy expression, the insecure expression.
Absolutely. And I think that's the cultural overlay. Like I think of like how does the culture influence you?
Yeah,
It's like there's a big giant blanket laying all over us that we're being covered with, right?
we
It's in the
are.
media, it's in music, it's in the relationships we see. And that's like you can't get away from like this programming of people on a movie treating a partner a certain way. And you're going to take that in, right? You're either going to like be like, "Ooh, that looks like that feels good to be that way," or you're going to say, "That looks horrible. I never want to do that," right? But you're getting all these examples that influence your outcome. But yeah, I remember how distinctly disturbing it was whenever the trend went around a couple of months, years. I think it actually started several years ago, but I feel like it
Mhm.
had a
It
resurgence.
resurged. Yep.
Yeah, of the whole thing was, if you haven't heard this before, the whole thing was, it was kind of like a reel. It was kind of going around and it would say, "You're a woman walking alone in the woods on a trail by yourself. And in front of you there's a bear or there's a man. Which one would you prefer?" And
Yep.
I think men were surprised to learn that most women chose the bear. They'd rather have the bear than a man alone in the woods with you as a woman by yourself.
Ugh,
And
I just
this,
felt that all in my body again, again.
I know, and
Because
it
I
puts
would
a
have picked,
pit
I
in my
picked the
stomach.
bear.
1000%. At least you know how you're going to die versus the other way, like could be way worse. There's lots of different things. And it's just, I don't, and I had to really teach my husband this growing up as I grew
You
up.
did
Like
grow up.
he's a big, tall man. He's 6'8". He's a big man. He
Don't
doesn't
lie, he's
feel
6'7".
6'7". He is
Sorry,
now.
Pam.
He's shrinking. No. um, I remember explaining to him on like, no, I'm not going to walk home by myself. No, people catcall me constantly, especially 15 years ago. It was like very commonplace. And like, he's never felt unsafe. And I remember the first time we had to have this conversation of like, oh my God, you don't feel unsafe? Like, he's like, no, I've never really felt unsafe. And
No.
it's mind boggling to
We
me.
had a conversation about getting gas, and I think he was just thinking I didn't want to like have to do car things because that's for men. And I was like, no, I literally don't feel safe at gas stations by myself. Like, oh,
1000%.
yeah,
And this like is real, right? Like this is true that women have been made to feel unsafe. And this whole thing I really think does have ties to this imbalance in masculine and feminine, and it plays itself out from the patriarchy influence that we have in our culture. And
it's
it's just so wild to think about how different the experience can be for men versus women. And again, this isn't about men versus women and men are bad. Like that's not at all what we're trying to articulate, but just to see where we are in our culture to where something like would you choose the bear is going viral is fascinating and waking people up that that's the
yeah,
truth,
waking
right?
people up. Yeah. And then there was a similar one about asking men if they would want to live on a planet with only men,
Oh
and
my God.
asking women if they would be okay living on a planet with only women. And women are like, yes, sign
This
me
was
up.
so funny because it was like outside of like a nightclub and they
Yeah.
interviewed a bunch of people back to back. This one made me laugh so hard. And it's like they did all the women at first and he's just like with the microphone, would
Mhm.
you live on a planet with just women? And all the women were like, hell yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go through the men. The men are like, would you live on a planet with just men? They're like, no, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Wow, what a wild
Well,
contrast.
okay, so once you start to see it, you can't unsee it. And that's how it was for me when I finally invited this into my own body to try to find that balance of feminine and masculine in my own body. Then I could look at it in my most intimate relationships, then out, out, out. So now I can't unsee it, right? I can't unsee that patriarchal energy in modern day America is the wounded masculine. It is an insecure masculine. It's an unhealthy expression of it because of the overemphasis on hierarchy, power over people. One person knows best, control, scarcity.
Hmm.
Oh, if we have scarcity, then there's not enough to go around, so we have competition. And then it's either you're right or you're wrong, or you're winning or you're losing. And then value is placed on achieving and productivity and da 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 da, burnout, 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 burnout. Like you can't unsee it.
And I think at some point too, it got convoluted that masculinity is competitiveness to an like some kind of power is good no matter what kind of thing for masculinity, and it's really not about that. Like masculinity is nothing without femininity. And masculinity is just the container. It is not the all knowing power controlling. That is the insecure masculine if you're controlling at all.
Right.
So it's interesting. There's so many of these normalized patterns, normalized behaviors. I think they're becoming more aware now that it's
People are
not
starting to
normal to be
question them.
controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are
But it
questioning them.
yeah. So progress.
It's like I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg's quote of people asked like is America something? I forgot what they asked. Like it was a metaphor. And she was like, "No, I think the best metaphor for America is a pendulum. When it swings so far to one extreme, it just has no other option but to come back." And I think we've been living in this extreme patriarchal system that's just not working anymore and people are realizing that and they're feeling it in their bodies and all those things. So just to set it up for those who are curious, matriarchal energy systems, following that feminine, divine feminine is collaboration and power with, like power
Or
t-
for, like for
for
the bigger,
for
yeah.
the people. Yeah, collective wisdom, flow, abundance, not scarcity. There's enough for everyone. So then we don't have to compete. We can create community. It's cyclical and there's value on connectivity, nurturing, and that your worth isn't in production, but your worth is in being. And you can just imagine, like, we can't just all live in that. That sounds like some weird, like, wait, what? But that's why it's all things in balance. And to back to your point, to be super clear, this isn't about men or bad, women or good. I believe that there was a moment, the reason why I was burning out and my big wake up was I was being just as patriarchal.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then I was at a political event actually, and the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, who's a dear friend of mine, he was speaking, and I was just had tears in my eyes, and he was speaking of matriarchal principles about how he's trying to lead in Maryland. So this isn't about man or woman or masculine is bad and feminine is good. It's about the balance of the energies, and just for far too long that pendulum swing.
Balance, absolutely. It's just balance. And then let's tie this back in, right, to because yes, this is absolutely for intimate relationships very important, especially for men and women who are partnered who might be wearing that lens of, I'm the woman, so I have these expectations on me, right? Like that's so important to give you some nuance to that. But I
For
even think about friendships, right? Like even in our friendship, like I think it'd be great to give some examples of like when we're planning something. Sometimes you'll be like, look, I want to hang out with you, but like I cannot make the plans. I cannot do the masculine thing and like make the plan and pick the time. And I'm like, I got you, girl. Like I'll do that part. You bring the vibes and you do this other thing, right? Like it's the balance because it's really not about male, female. Like it's so important to not
And
bring
that
that
feels
in.
so good because I'm usually holding the structure in so many other areas of life. So that feels really good. And another one, I remember you sending me a voice memo, not, this year at some point of just like you had a win you wanted to share and you were like hesitant to share it. And then it clicked in for you that like no matter what I was going on in my life, you had enough understanding of our interaction and dynamic that I would be able to hold the complexity of whatever was going on in my life and celebrate the shit out of you. And like that celebration, your win is my win. I haven't been able to feel that in all relationships, like because that competitive, over
Yes.
competitive, or jealousy
Jealous.
is real. Yeah,
It is. Yeah.
it's
No, I
real.
think that's such a like I really when you started talking, I was like, where how is she tying this in? And then I was like, the competitiveness part. Because it's true, especially in female relationships, like especially like through the 90s and 2000s, like every movie was just reeking with bad female relationships and
Devil
toxic
Wears
female
Prada,
culture.
and
Oh,
yeah, and
all of it.
honestly, girl boss era. Can we just claim that it's over?
It's over. It's dead. Yeah,
Ugh.
it's gone.
Like, no, we don't. That is okay. That is a girl boss era. Is women doing like, well, if we can't beat them, let's join them.
Yeah.
Like, if we can't beat patriarchy, then let's just like wear it like a business suit. And girl boss
Mhm.
era burn us out.
That's why, like, yes, like that's girl boss era. But like, even me, I'm like, I'm gonna have my fuchsia suit on and my bright colors, and I'm like, I feel powerful in a suit, but f you, like, I'm gonna wear whatever I want to wear. Like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna do the
it's
neon
because
thing.
I want to wear it.
Exactly. But not, yeah, it's like, no, it's not trying to fit into their wounded masculine. So now I'm going to just try to do the same fight and compete with them there. It's like, no, I'm coming way over here to do my own thing the right way. And the cool thing is, this dynamic is like, if you can get into an understanding with somebody, you can feel when something's off and then you can work on shifting it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know we've talked plenty about friendships where we feel an imbalance, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, I'm always the one that asks about planning something to hang out, and then it feels out of balance. Or there's lots
Or
of
I'm
other
always the one asking how you're actually doing, or yeah, just yeah,
holding the
and
space for
holding the
you.
space for
Please hold the
you.
space for me now.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
yeah.
even think about, I love this example because we like to do breathwork classes, and I've been to lots of different classes. And I'm always like, find the right person for my mood. Because if you go to one class and the person's a very masculine leader and you need to be held in that breathwork class, I'm like, yes, I'm going to be guided. I just have to be here and show up and follow their instructions, and that feels great. And then I've been in other classes where the person is kind of like, I'm not going to give you real explicit instructions. I'm just kind of flowing. And I'm like, ugh, this sucks. Tell me what to do. I'm too in my head. You're making me hold my own container, and I
Lord.
don't want to.
Mhm.
And like even just small nuance things like that, you don't realize how the way you show up in your energy is impacting other people. And so in what dynamic are you wanting to be the leader, and in what dynamic are you wanting to be led?
Ooh, I love that. And that kind of going back then, I know you were talking about like friendships and other relationships, but back to like romantic marriage, that is a constant conversation with Paul and I. Like, okay, you're going to take the lead on this part. I'll take the lead on this. And actually, he had something, the ball was in his court on something financial. And he just asked me this week, and he's like, it's overwhelming, Katie. Can we do it together? And I'm like, yeah, but like how much could resentment build if he really felt like he needed the support and couldn't ask for the help? So he just either dropped the ball, which would piss me off, or like, and so that old like patriarchal family model was like the father is the head of the household and the children will be seen and not heard, and the only way that you can show respect is if you are obedient or compliant. Like emotions, there's no emotions. I think you've said this about yours. Like there, it's weakness. Like, and so we're both trying to parent and create homes that have more matriarchal. But I always wonder, like, is the pendulum going to swing too far there for our kids? Like, but anyway, that's back to our homes and our marriages and things. Like,
Yeah.
we're both. That's a constant. That's a voice memo topic. Is how are we're parenting differently? What patterns are we breaking? What feels right? Not because it was told we were or what we saw.
Yeah, what intentional dynamic are we trying to create? And what are we doing by accident? And like we joke around all the time when you can see someone who's like living in what we call like an old-fashioned marriage or like a sitcom marriage, right? It's
Like an
I'll
old
go,
90s sitcom marriage where
like
the
the dad doesn't
husband
leave
is
the
on the
couch, the dad doesn't help with the kids, like
and
dad
then
doesn't
there's the
do
laugh track
anything.
like,
Oh,
oh,
so
it's their
funny.
birthday today? And then the laugh track, and the
I
wife's like, oh,
mean,
and she's got like 18 presents in her hand and like,
yeah, the burnt out mom who does it all and
it's
whatever.
not
Yeah, it's
funny
like
anymore.
no, nobody needs that. We don't need that. Like that doesn't mean mom has to go work and be the boss babe or whatever, right? Like no, it's not what we're saying, but we're also not saying trad wife, whatever that trend is.
Oh Lord, that's a whole different episode.
Yeah, there's just so many expectations and ideas out there, but yeah, it's really just balance and what you want for yourself is really all this is, finding that peace and harmony. It's harmony, it's working together.
Oh, it's harmony.
Harmony.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this episode was born out of us recognizing that at different points we hit a point of intolerance. So we were no longer willing to tolerate things, and that we were craving a shift and we could feel contrast and we wanted something different. And then now that we've done our work and are doing in our marriages, and you just look out and you can't unsee it. And not only can we not unsee it, but then like we are seeing in media and more amplified now, people are saying, I don't know if this is what I want.
Yep. And one thing I would invite you to think about is what if? What if it's actually on the feminine to lead? What if it's actually on the feminine to have the intuition to guide gently, right? They always say like the man with the whoever's successful, there's a woman at home, like whatever that saying is, who's guiding it. I'm like, yeah. But what if it's not because the masculine is making all the decisions and coming up with the ideas? What if it's a joint effort? And what if us feminine are actually supposed to lead from the feminine, because that little bit of unlock really reframed a lot for me. And when I realized that you can't wait on the masculine They just hold the container, but you fill the container, right? So whatever dynamic you're in, yes, masculine is going to contain and execute, but the ideas and the intuition is actually from the feminine.
I love that. I love you giving that to everyone as some food for thought. It has revolutionized for me what I see possible in all organizations, from Fortune 100 companies to family systems to our communities. What if we let what's natural, our intuition, all the data in our bodies, all the intelligence of the world, more than AI, our like actual intelligence, like what if we led with that? What if our like natural state of wanting connection and community and happiness and joy were really the whole point and we led with that? And then we rebuilt a container.
Would it be harmony? I know, this is when the music plays.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a constant conversation for us, and we wanted to bring it to everyone here to just talk about like, well, one, relationships on the wheel of life is critical because if your relationships, familial, romantic, right, friends, work, if that spoke is out of balance, your wheel is show be clunky.
It is. You
And
can't. We're humans. We're meant to be in relationship. We're meant to have community. We're not meant to live in isolation. So if you don't have that strong, firm, robust, connected relationship part of your wheel, you're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel disconnected. And so I hope these tools and this framework helps reframe, what might be lacking in some of the relationships if they're not feeling in harmony.
yeah, and I had a therapist say, like, isn't that crazy? No matter where you go, there you are. And I do think this is just an invitation to take a closer look at your more intimate, close relationships. And if they are feeling off, or you're feeling exhausted, or you're feeling some of the things we talked about, that's just data. That's just an opportunity to notice and become aware that you can choose a different or conscious reality, and maybe the masculine feminine, maybe the patriarchal matriarchal, maybe some of that framework is helpful. So what would you say
Maybe.
before we close out? Any
What if the best case scenario is just that we're all in healthier relationships with ourselves, with each other, with the world?
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Well, until next time, I
Trust
hope
your
you
higher downloads in
trust
your
your higher
relationship.
download. You just experienced another higher download. We are so grateful you joined us on this journey.
Yep, so if you're feeling that high vibe energy and want more, subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if this episode sparked something in you, we'd be over the moon if you'd share it with someone who might need this download too.
Yep, connect with us on Instagram at Higher Downloads, where we share more behind the scenes magic and some bonus content.
You can also find full episodes, transcripts, show notes, and resources at higherdownloads.com.
Until next time, trust your downloads and keep vibrating higher.